last season in La Liga, his stats were incredible. He was like fourth for progressive passes, I think, which is what Thomas Partey lacked last season. I think there was a real clear imbalance when we were in transition.
It's probably an unpopular comparison, but there are some similarities between him and Gabriel Jesus. Right then, welcome back to the Arsenal Insider YouTube channel. The anticipation is at fever pitch. The new season is upon us, and for pre-season has come to a close. It was very Arsenal. Today, Rosie Tudball from Arsenal Insider and I are each going to name one player who we believe can make the difference for Arsenal in the Premier League and take us to the Premier League title this season. And yeah, we'll get into it. But first of all, let me introduce Rosie. How are you doing, Rosie?
Excited, daunting, I think. I feel quite nervous about it, to be fair.
Yeah, I think after the Villarreal game, I was a bit downbeat, but that Athletic Club game has got me excited again. A lot of good things from that, which I guess we may touch on when we talk about our players. Obviously, last season, not narrowly in the end, but we were in the title race, had a massive injury crisis, and ended up very far off Liverpool. Got to the Champions League semi-final. We're hoping we'll finally see the cherry on top for Arteta's project, and we'll see some major silverware this season. Rosie, who is the player that is going to make the difference for us next season? Is going to be the guy that elevates us from perennial title challengers to title winners?
I think it's going to be a popular choice to say Zubimendi. I think obviously Gyökeres would be the name sort of off the top of my head because of what he will just bring in terms of what we were lacking last season in front of goal. But have to pay more attention to Zubimendi. I think last season in La Liga, his stats were incredible. He was like fourth for progressive passes, I think, which is what Thomas Partey lacked last season. I think there was a real clear imbalance when we were in transition. I think Declan Rice is brilliant when he's further upfield, but there's just a little bit of there's a bit of balance lacking between the defence and the midfield there, and then pushing the ball upfield. And I think Zubimendi will offer us all of that. I don't think we've seen anywhere near as full 100% from him as well. Which I mean, that Bilbao game again, to draw attention to that, he was unplayable. I think he completed all his passes in attack as well, not just his assists for Gyökeres, but it was just made such a difference. And with Rice, I think he's going to have so much joy playing with him. And the likes of Timber and Lewis Skelly as well, who can then cut in and he can drop back. So I think he's going to be a massive difference maker. But I think you could say it about all the new signings, really. Who would you be your pick?
I think I will go with Gyökeres if you're going with Zubimendi. I kind of did want Zubimendi, I'll be honest. I'll be honest, I was slightly sceptical of Zubimendi when the first sort of news came out, broke back in January that we'd agreed a deal with Sociedad. I watched quite a lot of him, watched quite a lot of the footage, and I felt like, and I do think now there's a bit more context around it, the Sociedad system was very sort of counter-attacking, playing transition, and sort of the midfielders were tasked with being extremely direct when they had the ball, play long, try and break. And I kind of looked at that and watched the footage, and he was a little bit clunky at times, which he doesn't look at all, or hasn't looked at all in pre-season or when he plays with Spain. And I was still kind of on the fence about it until I watched some of him in the Nations League for Spain in the summer. And I was like, wow, him and a better team when they dominate possession, surrounded by better players, he just platforms them. He's so good at sweeping up, does the defensive work excellently, a lot more mobile and athletic than his predecessor, Thomas Partey. But also you mentioned there, like the progressive passing, the elegance on the ball, I finally saw in some of that passing. So yeah, I was very enthused by that performance against Athletic Club. So he would be my pick. But if I'm having to go for someone else, then I don't think it can be anyone other than Victor Gyökeres. I know you mentioned when we were talking in the pre-chat, you mentioned Mosquera. Do you want to say anything about him?
I just think he's really gonna add a lot to our defence that we didn't have last season. I think Kivior was obviously really good towards the end of the season, but there was a glaring gap between sort of the quality of him, Saliba, and Gabriel. Even when he was at his best, he can't do the things that they can offer. But I think Mosquera, we've already seen. I mean, that Bilbao game, he dropped into sort of the right back role at one point, which was quite surprising. I didn't think that he had that in him from what I've read and seen about him so far. He was so fast, so intelligent, and sort of didn't really give their attack any time at all. I just think he's gonna really bridge the gap, and I think he really could test Gabriel and Saliba as well. I don't think there's going to be any room for complacency this year, which I think will make a massive difference, especially with if we have injury problems and Calafiori's not really reliable. I think Timber Arteta's not going to want to wear him out after his debut season. So yeah, I just think he's going to make a difference sort of in the squad ranks, and with pushing for competition, between two players that we really didn't think would ever be sort of usurped in the team.
Yeah, he looked really good, didn't he? Just I think I saw someone tweet it actually. They were saying if he made a centre back in a lab, it would be Mosquera, 6'3", incredibly physically imposing, really comfortable with both feet on the ball, and versatile. Like he kind of looks like he is kind of a Tomiyasu regen, which is kind of what we wanted from that player in terms of he looks like he could play in any of those four positions across the back four. Slightly different build to Tomiyasu, but yeah, that's an exciting one as well. But if I'm moving on to the guy that I have to say who really made the difference, it has to be Victor Gyökeres. The main difference between us and Liverpool last season was the attack. They scored 17 more goals than us. I think all the underlying numbers were much better on their side. So we needed to bridge that gap by adding an elite attacking player. Do I think Gyökeres will be elite? I don't know yet, but I think he'll be at least very good. 97 goals in 102 games for Sporting speaks to itself. That speaks volumes about his ability to find space in the box and get on the end of moves. But I also think he could unlock the left-hand side, which was a problem area for us last season. We were very reliant on the right-hand side. And I was thinking about this. It's probably an unpopular comparison, but there are some similarities between him and Gabriel Jesus. Maybe not in the finishing, but Jesus, when he was at his very best, loved to peel off to that left-hand side. We saw it loads in the first sort of 6 months when he was at Arsenal. And he was really good at sort of dribbling, jinking in and out of players in that sort of left-hand channel. And I think Gyökeres has some of that. When you watch all the footage, he does that. He did that a lot for Sporting. We saw bits of it in the last two friendlies. And I think whether it's Martinelli on that side, whether it's Madueke, whether it's a new signing, Eze, whoever, I think they could really benefit from that, because I think that left wing has been very isolated, with Rice sort of more defensively minded on that side in the left eight, and sort of not having the overlapping fullback with Lewis Skelly inverting that left-sided player, and Havertz preferring to sort of go over to the right-hand side. They've been a bit isolated in previous years. So I think Gyökeres, not only could he give us the extra 10 to 15 goals that sort of help us close that gap with Liverpool, turn some of those draws into victories, but I think he'll also help improve the sort of dynamics on that left-hand side. So, yeah. Any words on Gyökeres?
I think I was quite surprised by him over pre-season. He's really sort of what is it? Not, I wouldn't say he's nimble. He's pretty massive, isn't he? But I mean, his agility, the positions he was getting himself into, and as you said about him peeling off to the left, like how he was finding space in the box, making those runs. I mean, you expect it obviously from a striker who scored as many goals as he has, but he was just, they really couldn't live with him at stages, and it was really encouraging. I mean, he didn't finish the chance before we scored, but I mean, the goal he did score was kind of came out of nothing. I mean, I do think Havertz could have scored it, to be honest, but it's good to see sort of the differences between the two strikers, because going back to Havertz, we saw something from him against Bilbao that we haven't seen. Him running through the middle at steering pace, which was pretty cool. And I think like Gyökeres is just going to bring the best out of Havertz as well, because if Havertz isn't going to be a starter, and because I don't really see how he fits into the team anymore, not in the starting 11, I'd say. I mean, even in a sort of a 10 or a midfield role, who's going out. I mean, Arteta's not going to drop Odegaard, for example. Zubimendi and Rice are sort of locked in. So I think the competition's just going to make Havertz better. It's just going to make Gyökeres better as well. And they offer two, slightly different things, but also they are quite similar in their ways. I think Gyökeres is so fast. I think it's quite sort of almost misleading in his stature. He's so big, like so muscular and stocky almost. But he's so also, well, I don't want to say nimble again, but do you know what I mean? He just finds space in pockets that, as you said, like a Gabriel Jesus would normally find that sort of profile. Yeah, really impressive, and I hope the goals come in the Prem. I really do, because there's been so much noise about him being sort of like the next Darwin Núñez or something, and I think Darwin Núñez is pretty decent, to be honest. But yeah, I just really hope he can hit the ground running and do better than Sesko, to be honest, after United have grabbed him.
That's going to be an ongoing narrative for that the whole season, which I'm sure we'll be writing about on Arsenal Insider quite a bit. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how Sesko fares. I'm kind of happy with the way that's panned out. I think we've got their top target and they've got ours. But I'm happy with the way it's gone. Yeah, I don't fancy Sesko at United at all. That's our picks. Rosie has gone for Zubimendi and I've gone for Victor Gyökeres. I think there's great cases for both of them being the player that makes a difference and finally takes us to that Premier League title. Who is your pick? Tell us down below in the comments. Subscribe to the Arsenal Insider YouTube channel if you haven't already. And we'll see you after the season opener this weekend away at Manchester United. Quick score prediction for that one, Rosie?
God. Let's go. I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal. I think Man United will score first.
Fair enough. I'm going 4-0. Very confident 4-0 Arsenal. I think United are in for a terrible season once again, and I'll love it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.